and let's talk a little bit about Disney firings.
Yeah.
Because this was something that you had somewhat scooped, although we kind of knew these were coming.
Hmm.
Then there was the hubbub with Chapek, and then all of a sudden, Bob Iger says that he's going to basically do the same thing anyway, and now we're starting to learn a little bit more about that. So why don't you give us the overall gist of what's going on here, Cameron?
I posted to my Patreon just a day ago a message I'd received. I have a few Disney insiders who have joined and feed me stuff, and they've actually been able to get me things that weren't real scoops. I mean, I scooped that the hiring freeze that Chapo was going to announce by 48 hours, but trades didn't cover for another 48 hours. Someone inside Disney sent me an actual memo that this was happening. I also scooped it's been a year ago that remember that memo that set all the madness in motion when Bob Chapek said, I'm going, we're going to get out of politics. And then he had this massive backlash, right, in the Florida bill. And that was sent to me by one of these Disney insiders a couple hours before Variety put it on, so I was like, I don't even know if it's true, but I posted it. And then that memo was posted word for word on Variety 2 hours later. So it was true. So that same person who sent me the memo reached out to me as an employee at Disney and sent me internal thing. And I'm just going to read it very briefly what their message was. Their message they sent me was, quote, Disney layoffs have begun, and you'll find this very interesting. First affected departments are recruiting, talent acquisition, and diversity and inclusion. And he asked, didn't we discuss the Chapek regime was starting to prepare the field for layoffs in HR? If you remember last summer, there was some conversation that Chapek was going to start restructuring HR, and that had come onto my Patreon where these people had said, look, we're hearing that HR is going to be the first thing to go because they need to get the wokesters out of the company, and HR is where they're recruited and where they're protected, right? And so that was something that was last summer they had reported to me, and now that here we go, it's happening, and they're starting with it. And when recruiting talent acquisition is part of HR, they're bringing people in, and diversity and inclusion. We know that's DEI. So this person says it's also very telling that they're firing people over at DEI. It almost tells itself. This is basically an admission of how bad the woke infection is. Everyone thought, now this is interesting. This is from the Disney employee. They say everyone thought they were going to start over at DMED, which was the division that Chapek had set up with Cream Daniel, because they fired Cream Daniel after they fired Bob Chapek, and so. But they didn't start there. They thought they were going to start at DMED to trim the payroll accounting according to the new structure that was set by Iger. But they're starting at HR and diversity and inclusion, and so that was shocking to this Disney employee who said everyone inside the company was expecting that the first people they're going to get axed by Bob Iger are going to be the Bob Chapek loyalists. I mean, the immediate loyalists like Cream Daniel were let go within 24 hours, right? But just the divisions that Chapek had tried to put together, that they're going to be the first things, because that's what you do when a new regime comes in. You get rid of the remnants of the old regime because they might not be loyal. Instead, they started at the one place that nobody in the company expected, and certainly Hollywood didn't expect. They started on HR and diversity, equity and inclusion, which was Bob Chapek's plan. And many people in the industry had been very happy to hear that Mr. Chapek had been let go because they thought Bob Iger was going to come in and protect these divisions. And I'll be honest, many in the fandom assumed that was what's going to happen. That Chapek, Mr. Iger is a wokester himself, and that he's there to protect the woke. He's been brought back in. Well, that's what's happening is the DEI people, supposedly looking for diversity, are the first people being let go as not necessary under the new corporate structure. And so this is a claim they made. And so is this true? And then they sent me multiple LinkedIn accounts, announcements from their colleagues at DEI who were announcing, people put this stuff out there, like I just got fired. And so I think, Tom, I sent to you so you've got them. I sent you some screenshots. These are people, and again, we wish no one ill. I've been fired. It's not good. I've had to, people need to feed their families. We're not taking any joy in this. We're just sharing that this is confirming what the Disney Insider said, is that multiple people as of yesterday started posting that I've been let go. So why don't we look at a couple of these? So we've got Ms. Brianna Nichols, and she is apparently an HBCU, which my understanding is historically Black college and university, if that's correct, right? Yes. HBCU outreach and engagement. So that's her position. That's clearly a diversity recruiting position. And she says here, unfortunately, my time with the Walt Disney Company will come to an end at the end of the month. So that's a week from now, as I was impacted by the layoffs. And then she goes on to thank people. And she says, please send all remote TA campus recruiting, DEI, and program management opportunities my way. Thank you in advance. And so that's one person. She's in recruiting and DEI, and she sadly announced that she's been let go, right? And then we've got 3 more that they sent. If you want to, it's like, is that just a one-off? I mean, there's 3 more that were just renounced, and it's, let's look at a couple more of these. So we've got Ms. Pooja Desai, and she says yesterday, and she's in, yesterday was a difficult day for me, my colleagues and leaders. We're informed that our projects are ending early, marking the last day of the company, and then this says to open to work. And so you're like, well, what projects are that? So you go down to the hashtags Ms. Desai has. So they're Disney, open to work, talent acquisition, development, recruiting. So that's HR. That's HR, right? So Ms. Desai was obviously in some kind of project in HR to bring certain people in, and that's been terminated. So we got Ms. Chrissy Barrigan, and now she says it very specifically. She calls herself a magic maker, a people person, and she says she is a DEI advocate. That's in her log line at the top. And she says, unfortunately, the first round of Disney layoffs have begun. Here we go, primarily in the talent acquisition, recruiting, DEI, and contractor side of things. And she said, I already know some of my fellow cast members impacted by this. She's currently still has her job, but others are not. And so she's saying, if you're a cast member and you have not connected, basically, if you've been let go, please reach out to me. I'll see if I can open up my network to you. So Ms. Barrigan still has her job, and I wish her well. But here we go. I mean, that's that. And these are all on the same day. So this was happening immediately, and people were putting this out. So I think we have one more that they sent to me. So we've got that. There we go. And this woman is Mernette Martin, and she's a technical recruiter. So again, HR, and and she says, I'm with the 7K others who were sadly laid off. She cried, which I understand. I didn't enjoy the first time I was laid off. First time I ever cried for a job. She goes off, and she says some gracious things. There's no one's insulting Disney. That's wise of them. That would be bad, to publicly put that out there. To those in the same position as me, cheers to our next chapter. So there's others, and so we've got all these people that are coming from the very things Bob Chapek needed to do in order to get people off his back inside the company, which is to change who was being recruited, to change who was being brought into the company, and to change the focus away from just, as a minority myself, I think it's always great to reach out to people that maybe you hadn't thought of before, but are qualified for the job, right? Who don't necessarily have a network. I think many people's critiques of DEI initiatives is that often who are qualified for the job becomes a lower priority on that list, right? And so it just becomes staffing people there based on ethnicity or various identities rather than their talent. I don't think it should be either or, but unfortunately, I think in practice it often becomes either or. Either you're a talented white guy or you're not as talented minority. That shouldn't be the way it's played. Unfortunately, the industry plays it that way. And so when you're having that kind of way that's being put in effect, it makes sense when you're like, we got to get back to making money. We got to have the best people possible. If you guys aren't thinking in terms of the best people possible and trying to find some people that we hadn't thought about who are the best people possible, if you're not thinking those ways, we're going to start scaling down this division, right? That's what's happening. Interestingly, this is happening for the last couple of days now. And Trey Varieties, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, nobody's talking about it. These people are putting it out publicly and no one's reporting it.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, Cameron? And the funny thing is this is kind of rolling downhill from the tech layoffs that started back in November. Mm-hmm. You had about 28% of the layoffs that were happening in a lot of these mega corps were falling in line with the HR and DEI initiative programs. I mean, HR and DEI is hand in hand. They're the same thing. Yeah. It's two sides of the same coin. But you're starting to see that now roll into entertainment, and it has to. They overhired in these areas. They knew that, these are make work jobs. They're not required. And when you're a big company and you see the future of the economy, like everybody who's reading the tea leaves is right now, that we're in a recession, it's going to get much worse before it gets better. You're not going to hire anybody. So why are you carrying all these people in all these positions that don't produce anything? These are the least productive people in a corporation. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I think the irony is, let's just say the irony is that when the I call it DIE push.
Me too. Yeah.
dye push happened, the people who are already there, let's say the core talent, they weren't displaced by new hires. A DIE division was created, and the diversity was poured into that division, or something like, checking to see whether bad people were doing bad things, like at Twitter. What was it called? The police,
the
internal police force. And so these are two groups that could easily be lopped off and won't change the profitability or the viability of the companies actually operating. They're meaningless. So it is ironic that as a percentage, maybe a company increased its diversity, but didn't increase its diversity in the core areas where DIE would normally want it to happen, in the core talent pool that's actually doing the heavy lifting. And I've always said that look at the pool of talent available. That's really the key. You don't hire based on the rules of DIE. You hire based on what pool is available. And if you go to STEM, let's say, and I'm just going to exaggerate, if you've got 1,000 South Asian computer scientists, and you've only got 100 from another grouping,
right,
you're going to get a higher percentage of qualified people from the 1,000 than from the 100.
Right.
So I've always told people, find ways to increase the funnel, not artificially hire people. That should be your job. Your job is to increase the available funnel of talented people.
But that takes time, Paul. That's
yes,
about
it does.
Changing culture, and that's a generational issue, which is a good thing. But these guys are thinking quarterly returns.
And I would say we already had gotten there where, go ahead, Culture.
So I was just going to say, it's also a bigger problem. Because now you think, when you look around at these companies, tech companies, whatever else, right? You look around, the largest percentage of women don't work in the field that are going to be required going forward. So I'm preparing everybody. The next narrative is going to be women hardest hit. Well, of course, because they work in the fields of HR, they work in the people business, right? They don't work in the science, build shit. I'm sorry.
Right, exactly. Like if this was a bunch of, industrial jobs that were being laid off, majority of them would be men.
Yeah,
right.
When we say not is in the majority, it's just about majorities. There are definitely women.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying the next narrative here is going to be, women are hardest hit. Women aren't being able to find jobs in the tech industry anymore. There's all this stuff because those jobs are in DIE and HR.
Well, we've already seen this Culture. We've already seen some of these people freak out. It's not just women, and necessarily, it's also people, who are not white. And then the first thing they do is scream racism.
Well, and again, I mean, but this is the other problem with hiring with a quota and not hiring with,
Well, absolutely.
But that's neither here nor there. And that's not the larger conversation. I'm just preparing everybody that the next wave of whining is going to be coming from, the feminist side of the equation. Because, again, there aren't going to be more jobs out there. DIE is not going to grow for the next year. Right.
I can tell you, we all know exactly where this goes, right? Like we've seen it in the BAFTAs. This just happened.
Yeah.
Okay. What did they do? They said, well, the best person is going to win the award. Bless you, Paul. They're going to say the best person is going to win the award. Fine and dandy. But guess what they did? They eliminated the separation of the awards, meaning there's no male awards and no female awards. Guess what happened? White men sweep the BAFTAs.
Yeah.
Almost as if that's the deeper strategy behind these kinds of things.
What did you start this problem for in the first place? Because according to you, too many white men were winning everything. So your fix basically got you right where you started from again, according to you. Not only that, it was worse because not one single fucking woman won anything because you took away the sex categories.
Well, but they won PR points with certain trans activists, right? And so that
to a point maybe, but otherwise the backlash I'm hearing they're getting is not good on that. And I know that's separated from this, but it's my example of where it leads to is my point.
Yeah.
But anyway, so moving on with that. So like, that's pretty clear where a lot of these cuts are going to come in. It makes sense. Like Paul's saying, these are extremities that are unnecessary for the company. They don't add any value to the company at the end of the day. Sure, they may help the company look more diverse, but is that really helping your company in the grand scheme of things, right? That's the bigger question here. No, it's not. It's just costing your company more money than anything at the end of the day.
Yeah, and
the diversity thing is it's a hard thing. Here in Ontario, a health organization attached to the Ontario government hired a diversity hire who was diverse, and this individual populated the organization. This wasn't a manufacturing company; it was a healthcare related organization. Populated it 100% from people from her ethnic food group. So, and I won't say who it is or what group, but apparently that's not uncommon.
Sure.
That the people you know or the people you bring in. So it wasn't really diverse at all. No. And if a white person had been running the dye group, that they would have been pillared. They would have been fired if all they did was hire white people. So they're finding this more and more in smaller organizations.
Well, and this is where I say if they want to do their activism, if they want to push for DEI, the place to push for it is in the schools. You need to get kids when they're younger. You need to get them before they go to college or whatever their next step is going to be. Then they're ready for these jobs. So when they actually get these jobs, they're worth a shit, and they're not like that. You know, like for instance, that writer on Superman who got fired because she sucked and was crying racism. It's like, no, it's because you fucking suck.
Well, that's the problem. And I have friends of mine who knew all the writers on that show, who are writers and producers, and they were saying these are the most progressive, non-racist people we've ever met, and they were angry to see them being labeled as such. This Tristan wasn't just, in their view, was just a bad writer. It wasn't promoted. And then all these people have to carry, well, aren't you the people that fired that person? And they have to carry that on them for something that's not fair.
So again, I mean, it's the problem is if you are unprepared in education, going into a job, you're going to be unprepared for the rest of your life unless you put in the work while you're in the job to actually learn it. But we don't have meritocracy anymore. There's no working your way up through the industry. They bring in people at levels that they just aren't prepared to perform at. That happens so often in Hollywood and at these big major companies now. It's staggering to me.
Yeah. Well, I'll give a personal example because I don't share that philosophy. Look, I like every human being. You go out of the way to open up doors to your friends and people you trust, right? And so I've worked on shows. I'll give you an example. I worked on a show once. I won't name the poor person, where I brought on a young Muslim PA because like very few Muslims in the industry. This person's got I brought them in, and they weren't performing. And the fact that not everyone on the crew liked them. When I heard that they were causing some drama on the set, I pulled them to my office. I said, "What the hell are you doing? I didn't bring you in here to create drama on my show, and you're not performing at the level I expected." And I chewed this person out because it made me look bad.
And what was the reaction?
Those guys they were shocked because because people think, well, and part of this person was beginning to think that I got a producer on the show. Everyone was thinking, well, we can't. People actually think we can't say anything to him because he's obviously you're his patron. I'm like, I'm not his patron. If he's not doing his job, I'm not his patron because that reflects on me that I'm patronizing poor behavior. And, that's how I live my life.
But that's because you're a professional.
Yeah. And I'm not going to be embarrassed about bringing in people of my ethnic or religious identity and that I trust. But if they don't perform, they're the first words out because they're making me look bad, right? You got to be. And I told them when I did it, you have to bring your A game because it reflects on me. They didn't bring their A game. And so again, Cameron,
that's a you. I mean, you were an industry professional, right?
I've got a very similar story to that. I was working on a show in British Columbia, and the key executive producer brought in their nephew as an assistant, and the nephew was terrible, incompetent, lazy, didn't do anything. And I went straight to the EP and I said, if you found out what your nephew was doing, you'd be incredibly embarrassed. He got angry at me because I was, of course, insulting his nephew. But then he was also telling me, well, you have to go to the showrunner and tell them that. It's like, the showrunner's not going to say anything. He has no idea what's going on with this. Like, you have to do this. And it just kind of blew up. And basically what ended up happening is that the nephew was stayed on, but he was just moved around to other areas where he'd do less impact because he wouldn't actually do anything for it. But word traveled around as the months progressed and we wrapped up the season. And everybody was like, yeah, this EP, he's got to go because he's made this entire year working on this show miserable because he would not take responsibility for bringing in his family. And yeah, and then that show didn't get picked up for a following season. So, I mean, it comes to the case. You have the inverse. Like Cameron did the responsible thing. Yeah. And this executive producer that I worked with did not and thought they were in the right and ended up costing a lot of people their jobs.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it ultimately, in the world that we're living right now, you just have to be a person of your own integrity because we can't control these larger historical societal forces that are happening, the cultural swings, and we can't control them. All you can do is, are you going to be a person of moral integrity in your life, right? Or at least try to be. We all make mistakes. We all fail to live up to our ideals at times, but that I'm trying to hold myself to that standard. And it's just because I don't think my community, my Muslim community in Hollywood is going to be helped by having mediocre people getting a bad name. I think it's only going to close more doors. There aren't that many doors open for us anyway. And when you show up on set and people don't like you, like, because human nature is like, these damn Muslims. We do that, right? We do that. We generalize about entire communities based on individuals. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to accept that. If you don't perform, you're out.
Generally speaking, anytime I've been on involved with a crew, a wide divergent, they're all working their asses off.
Yeah.
I rarely see slackers, of from any religious stripe or whatever. They're there because they love the business, and they know what needs to be done. Just sort of a smaller example. My son is a mechanic. They get kids from high school. My son's a kid; he's 25. But they get co-op students from high school. And he said most of them spend all the time on their phone. And he said the two recent kids they just brought in, they each put their phones away in the locker and then just came right out and did not, then weren't on their phone all day. Mm-hmm. Everyone in the shop was shocked. And they were there to work. And people are going, crap, I'd hire these kids. These are good. But not the other ones. So it's all your life is in your own hands. More than you think. You just have to take control of it. And as I told my kids, if you show up on time and do your work, then you're ahead of 90% of all your other student friends.
Yeah, absolutely.